How to build a unicorn MVP. In this video, I'm going to go through a common mistake that I see founders make. Again, especially first time founders, early stage founders, new founders, when it comes to building an MVP. MVP stands for minimum viable product. And it's just one of those jargony words that we use to, in essence, describe and ask the question, what is the minimum amount of work and effort and resources that we can invest to validate or invalidate our assumptions on whether our startup idea will be valuable or not. The reason I bring this up is because the mistake that many founders make is they go out and spend a big pile of money, and I get scared. I start hearing founder goes and takes their app idea to a dev shop, and the dev says, oh yeah, absolutely, we can build that. It's going to cost you $75,000, $150,000. Please chunk down your $25,000 deposit and go raise another 25,000. And they don't care what you're building. They're just going to build it for you. And I get it. It's a business. They want to make as much money as they possibly can. Personally, I think that dev shops can be quite predatory. They take advantage. They say, absolutely, we can teach you how to be a founder. We're going to take your idea from, absolutely zero to the napkin to the functioning prototype and, all those things. And they don't inform the founder of what an MVP is, because the founder is thinking, I'm going to get to unicorn. This is going to be $1 billion idea, or at least a 10, 20, $30 million idea. And that's the reason I use the term unicorn, Y-O, unicorn, versus unicorn with just the U, because this should all be based on you, your skills, your capacity, your budget, your passion, your direction, everything that you can do, not what a dev shop can do or a dev shop tells you that you should be doing. It's what you can do. And again, I want to caution all the founders out there, before you drop your $25,000, $50,000, start thinking about, what is my MVP? What is the MVP based on you? I'm going to show you the questions you should be asking yourself ahead of time, before, during, and after the MVP process. Remember, you're building an MVP, and the whole point is that you're building software, or you're building a product that no one's seen before. The nature of startups is very disruptive. You're trying to create a product that nobody's seen before, solving a problem they might not know that they have, or providing a solution to a problem that they might have accepted. This is just the way that it is. They didn't know there's alternatives. You're going in there and you're disrupting. Think Netflix coming in, disrupting Blockbuster and DVDs and going to the store and late fees and all that stuff. Think Airbnb disrupting hotels, Uber disrupting, taxis, all that stuff. That's the nature of startups. And everybody starts with this really great dream, and, I'm going to build this, massive thing. And they go out to build this MVP, and either they're doing it in-house and they literally take months and months and months and months, and then it falls flat. Nobody knows what it is and what they're doing. They don't get any validation. It's just churning those wheels and staying still, or they go and chunk in all their money, and it's just not responsible. Not responsible. So MVP responsibly, everybody. Here are the questions you should be asking yourself. What is the one problem we can solve for now? I want you to pick one problem. You're going to be looking at your users and you see all the problems that they have. What is the one problem? Boil it down to one thing. That's what you want to do. One thing, narrow it down. If we could solve one problem, what would it be? And guess what? Go ask them. You can have all the assumptions that you want. Most likely you started solving your own problems, but go talk to users, interview them. And I'm not talking about, taking on a big scientifically driven inquiry process where you're using stats and data and surveys and all that stuff. Figure out one problem and find out if people agree that they have that one problem. And you keep asking yourself, what is the one most important point of friction or pain with that one problem? That's all you're doing. If I could just solve it and create value with one point of friction. Eliminate one point of friction or one point of pain, make it a little more convenient, or give them access, or give them an idea. What is the one thing that you can do? Pick one thing. You're going to start to see a theme here. One thing. And again, when I'm talking to founders and advising them, what's the one thing? Rank all the stuff, all the things that you want to do, rank it down to one thing, while I'm asking these questions for a reason that no one else is looking for. It's one thing to say, okay, here's the most important pain or friction. But if you've got all this competition coming in there, you know, they like to think of it this way. They like to say blue ocean versus red ocean. And here's the issue, right? Is that, you know, blue ocean theory is don't go to the red ocean where there's, you know, bloody competition. There's chum in the water, there's sharks, everything like that. But if you pick a blue ocean and it's completely obscure and you're out there and you're creating a new category, I've done other videos like this before, well, it's going to be harder to get them to adopt your solution if they don't know. So you kind of want to combine it together. I've heard people call it like a pink ocean. You get blue and you get red. Well, that I say forget oceans completely. Go and figure out what's the land. Where's the land that everybody's looking and say, if I could just get over there, if I could get through this ocean and get on that land, my life's going to be better. That's what you're looking for. So what's the most important point of friction or pain that no one else, and I'm talking about your competitors, not your customers or your users, saying, I wish someone would look over there, that no one else, your competitors, are looking at, that's flying under the radar, underestimated. They don't want to, you know, chunk in the money. It's a huge pain in the tail to adjust. What's the one thing? And this boils down to, you want to ask yourself right at the beginning, what's the one why? What is that one why that, you know, if you read Simon Sinek, he says start with why, but then he expands it. If you read the book, The Infinite Game, he talks about the noble cause. What is the one why? And you want to boil it down there, because guess what? Throughout this process, it's going to be thankless, insufferable at times. It's just really hard to do a startup. Startups are super hard. They're harder than starting a small business. You want to boil down to the one why, because that's what keeps you going through the really tough times. You want to say, this is why I'm doing it. Now, that one why, you may say something like, I want to change the world. And that's what great founders do. They fundamentally know deep down inside they're going to change the world. But that doesn't translate to the one thing that you're doing, the one problem, the one point of friction or pain that no one else is looking at. That's two separate things. You're eventually going to expand into all the problems. You're eventually going to expand into all the friction points and all the pain points, but you got to start somewhere, and you want to go from 0 to 1, and then you can go to 2, but make it linear. What's that one thing? But keep that one why deep down inside of you, locked away, because you're going to get resistance, detractors. You're going to hit resistance points. You are going to start to miss milestones. It's just failure after failure after failure. But if you keep that one why going, it's going to be just what you need to keep that fire lit, which is important. Next, as you're going through and you're building your unicorn, these are the questions that you want to be asking yourself. What is one feature that we can test in 1 week? All right. And I understand sometimes it's going to take a long time to develop your prototype for your startup, especially if you're working with deep tech. But most of the time, not really. You know, most of the time, founders, they go out, like startup founders that were successful, they go out with a pitch deck, or they go out with a demo video or a landing page, and they start testing one thing out that week. What is one feature? And might be just promoting that feature and seeing how many people sign up. I've launched complete startups and said, yeah, this is what our product is going to be. But we're going to start off with this one thing. Can I get you to do one thing? Register, chunk down a deposit, something like that. Is my unique value proposition good enough that I can test it? And if I can't go out and test something in 1 week, most likely I'm over investing and I am going to cause myself problems, because I'm going to get in tunnel vision, and I get into confirmation bias, and everything that I see is going to confirm, oh yeah, I just need to spend 6 months building this. No, literally one thing in 1 week. And I have founders that have disappeared for months and months and months, and they have nothing to show for it. It'd be much better for you to test something that's poorly designed, that's super embarrassing. You know, Reid Hoffman always says, if you launched it and you're not feeling a certain amount of embarrassment, you probably launched it too late. Perfectionism is going to be the absolute enemy of progress here. So you want to figure out the one feature you can test in 1 week, and that will constrain you. Maybe you just do it manually. Maybe you're just going to use a platform that's already out there. Use standard text messaging apps, a spreadsheet, a simple landing page with a website and some functionality, an app that you can download, like a widget that you can put on a website. One thing that you can test and see. And the test doesn't have to go out publicly. The test can go out to like a small group of people and say, hey, I just want you to test this one feature for me. These are the questions you're asking. How can we get feedback for 1 month? Limit the feedback 1 month. So once you build something, now you're going to go on cycles. 4 cycles of 1 week, get feedback. So example, you do one thing for 1 week, and then you cycle it and you get feedback right after. And then you go back and you build something for another week, you get feedback. And you're going to do continuous feedback loops for that 1 month. Give yourself 1 month at a time. Let me just back up. Whenever I see someone do a startup and they start thinking about, well, how are we going to incorporate? What's our cap table? And who are the investors and all those things? I go, no. Don't do that. Forget about the company. Forget about all that stuff. Think of it like a project. Think of it like a social experiment, a science project, something that you do that you could like literally do over a weekend, boil it down and just do a project. See if you can get something off the ground without incorporating all those things. Most of my startups, come from an idea, and I test one thing. And let me show you. This is an example here of a video game startup. And my first test was a piece of paper like this. And I just wanted to understand the mechanics. And I just tested this was the one feature. And I said, I'm just going to spend 1 week doing it. And then what I did was I continued building it. And then guess what? My next prototype, was this. And then I just made it a little more with, better cards to try that out. This is a video game. This was the starting prototype for a video game. And it was just one thing that I did, and I just did it on cycles. If you are not spending equal amounts of time development and through distribution, then you're going to miss out on the feedback, and you're probably going to build something and you're going to invest in something that wastes money and wastes time, precious resources that founders do not have. Finally, what is the one metric to measure that matters the most? You're going to ask yourself, as you're getting feedback, what's the one metric? What do they do that's most important? You can get caught up in so many different false positives or complaints, chasing around because someone says, ooh, I'd like to see this, and I have feedback on that. And you're going to have to boil all that down and get back to the one why and figure out what is the one metric that matters the most. What is the one action that you want to see them do? What are you looking at that's going to determine the right set of data to inform you on what you're doing? Finally, ask yourself, what's within our budget? So after you're doing all these things, you want to think about, okay, what's one feature that I can test in 1 week? Guess what? Now you're not going to hire a dev shop that's going to work on something that you don't even know users are going to like or people are going to value for the next 6 months. You figure out what's one thing. In fact, go to a dev shop, go to thing and say, what can you build me in 1 week? I'm going to give you a small amount of budget. And what can you build me in 1 week so that I can test? Get me a landing page. Get me something that I can just start to see, like a little mini script or something like that. And, if you're going to work with your dev shop, make them earn it. Make them partner with you like any technical co-founder should in terms of these iterative cycles. And this is what we call the lean startup methodology. But you want to think about what's within our budget, right? What's within our budget? I was going to go total extreme and say, what can I pull off for $1? And implying what can you do for free right out of the gate. And I know that's not always possible. And I like to do as much stuff as free as possible, but sometimes I got to spend money as well. And that's where I go to Fiverr and Upwork or different things. And I go, one thing. One time, for this video game, I got one guy to build a sort of a module for an existing platform, an existing game platform. I think what did it cost me? Like $85 or something like that for a video game. And it actually was on the screen and all those things. Didn't work fully, didn't have all the functionality, but I just wanted to see if that was something that I liked. And you know what? Guess what? $85, lesson learned. I moved away from that platform. Now, when you're done and you're going through the cycles, you want to ask yourself some other questions. Who is the one most important user? Most likely you've gone out there and you've seen people start to use it. You start focusing on that most important user. Who's the one most important user out of all the testing that you've done? Again, this prevents you from taking in all this feedback and chasing things around. What a lot of times I call elephant hunting, when you think about that one big company and they say, well, we considered if you added all these features. And so you start changing your plan and then you realize that's not right. I'd rather see you go, off Broadway. Forget the Broadway shows, go off Broadway and go for the smaller companies because they're going to be easier to sell, less gatekeepers and what have you. So if you're looking at one feature or one problem that no one else is looking at, what about the one user or that one target market that nobody's looking at that is completely being ignored? And that way, big competitors can't come in and throw a bunch of money and blow you out of the water. Come eat your lunch, as I like to say. What is the one most important experience to them? While you're going through and you're getting that, you figure out the one user, you're getting the feedback, and then you ask them, what's the one most important part of this experience to you? What is the one thing that you can't live without? And explain to them. And they may be giving you information that you didn't even think about. And those are the questions that you're asking yourself. And then how do we get them to refer one other person? This goes back to the unicorn formula where I go, do 3 things one at a time. And one of them is refer one other person. You want to make the experience so good. If you've gotten that one experience down, then you figure out how do you make it easy for them, remove the friction for them to refer one other person. And you want to be asking these questions as you're doing development because it's going to inform your development process. And here's the question, the bonus question that I have. As you're going through this, ask yourself, what's the one thing that creates the most joy for us and our users? This is going to attach to your one why. The reason I say this, we have an investment thesis here when it comes to investing in startups, is things that create joy for you, the founder, and the employees, your team, and the user. That's where I think the most value is going to be created. You want to be thinking about what is the one joy? What is that moment of joy? And I define joy as feeling motivated to be with someone or something in your strength, especially your weakness, like being motivated to be part of an experience or with a group of people. What's the one thing that creates the joy? And if you ask yourself that, and you can align that between you, your one why, and your users, and you can use that to fuel. I learned this. I got this from Airbnb because they got to a place where it was all about living like a local and friendships that they developed, being with other people, the joy of renting a local place and meeting a local person instead of sitting in a hotel, a branded franchise hotel, the joy of going and being a part of that experience. That's the magic of Airbnb. I could go through so many other startups that offer this, but ask yourself as you go through this, what's the one thing that creates the most joy as you're cycling through all the what's the one thing questions that you're asking yourself as you're developing your MVP. So there you have it. If all you do is stop everything as a founder and ask yourself, go through this video and ask yourself these questions. I'll actually put them in the notes for you so you don't have to transcribe from the video. And you ask yourself and your team these one questions, then you're going to save yourself so much heartache and you're going to avoid the mistakes so many founders make when it comes to building the MVP. Build an MVP based on you, make a unicorn based on you, YO unicorn, versus running around saying, oh, this dev shop or all these people tell me, or these investors tell me that I'd be doing this, this, and that. It doesn't work that way. Start with you and you're going to be just fine. Hope this was helpful. As always, we're available for office hours, group meetings at startups.com. Talk to the community. We're an online community of founders accelerating other founders. Ask all the questions that you need to. We're here to help. If you haven't thought about joining startups.com, come check it out. Startups.com. It's a great community, and we're teaching each other how to do these things. And we have hundreds and hundreds of founders and dozens, most likely, who you can relate to, that you can connect with, because it can be lonely being a founder. And these are the things that we discuss all the time versus being in an isolated bubble and going around and getting advice from online. Like, how do you know what advice works good? And that's where we're going to try and just give you the agnostic, unbiased, just straightforward, this is how the industry works, and help you out as much as we possibly can. As always, leave a comment, ask a question. More than happy to take feedback to see the topics for future videos. If you are part of the startups.com community, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.